It is 7:06, start the meeting with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And since I didn't do my normal spiel, I will say this is the Nottingham Budget Committee for the December 11th meeting. We'll do a roll call, start with you, Joe.
Jill Eldridge.
Charlotte Fife.
Karen Quinn.
Lincoln Lavoy.
Jim Stevens.
Owen Fred Gray.
Carol Merton.
Susan Levinson.
Jeffrey Morrison.
Bob is excused and Donna is excused. So there are 9 of us tonight and that's the entirety. Open to public comment, seeing there is nobody from the public. We'll move up. We'll move on to, you're welcome to. Public comment it up. We'll give you a special dispensation since you're not from the town.
It doesn't actually fall within any other business within your agenda, so the literature that was distributed on your table is part of a petition warrant article that is coming in. You're probably questioning what it is, but there is a group, the petition says, "We, the undersigned residents of Nottingham, respectfully ask that the 2 town governing bodies, the Board of Selectmen and School Board, and the Budget Committee, jointly or separately host a presentation by New Hampshire School Funding Fairness Project regarding the funding of our public schools. The NHSFFP is a nonpartisan 501c3 nonprofit advocating for equity in public schools and taxation. It discusses how New Hampshire currently funds education over the over-reliance of property taxes, which, as you know, are an increasingly heavy burden on the taxpayers in Nottingham and around the state. The New Hampshire School Funding Fairness Project performs grassroots and legislative advocacy for greater equity in public school funding and taxation. We believe in Granite State, where all students are educated excellently, all schools are funded equitably, and all homeowners are taxed fairly. Fairfunding.org. So this petition was just received in the office this week. Lori Anderson, our town clerk, is verifying that it has the 25 minimum required, but I'm distributing to you as a committee, as a whole, as requested.
Excellent, thank you.
Where is that she just read?
The petition actually of what you just read, I don't know. Did we actually get a copy of that petition? Is that in here?
I'll scan a copy. There was only just one. There was 10 copies of all the information about
Oh, I see.
the program, but there was just one cover letter for the board.
Oh, you didn't make these glossy color photos?
Didn't,
So
those were not used.
This would go onto the town ballot
Correct.
unless the school's got one, which I
Correct.
haven't heard of.
Yeah, we're gonna try not to duplicate, because I know it's coming into the school board as well, if it hasn't already been received.
Oh, so it will be going into the school board. Okay.
And this is just to have a
You'd have to put it
hearing?
on both ballots or it
Request to
wouldn't be
have a
binding
hearing.
on.
It's only advisory anyways.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
So we don't actually have to vote
You
on
have
it.
no say.
And by don't have to, I mean, we're not supposed to, I believe, because there's no monetary
No.
value, so we don't make a vote.
Okay.
But excellent, okay, so we have received that, we will review it and follow the Board of Selectmen and school board's lead, however they decide to put it in front of the town. So with that, is that the end of our public comment?
I think so.
We will begin the review of the town draft budget. So just to make sure we're all looking at the correct thing, this would be dated 12/10, correct?
Correct.
Am I looking at the right one? Sure. Okay. Your packets you also received and should be printed out in your booklets in front of you. There, in addition to the budget, there was the tax cap calculation. So just a reminder to the board, tax cap calculation takes into account the operating budget and all of the approved warrants in terms of the calculation comparing previous years to current year. And the recommendation from the budget committee, since we are a tax cap town, cannot exceed 4% of both the operating budget and the warrants. So we don't just look at one versus the other over under, it's the total. And our recommendations have to come in under 4%. That does not necessarily mean that the warrants or what happens in town deliberative is constrained by that 4%. It's just our recommendation to the town. and please correct me if I'm wrong, because we figured out a lot last year, Ellen, but
You are
I
correct.
believe
and-
that is correct.
And I think even the legislature clarified that in 2024 as well.
We had a steep learning curve over the last few years from becoming an SB town, which got voted on, I think, in 2020 or 2021.
It was actually 2022, so the first year it went into effect was
Was it 22 when
23.
it went into effect? Okay, so the vote would have been in 21, right, for 22, that makes sense. Okay, so just a couple years into it, but with that, Ellen, where would you like to start? Cause we have default, which we've seen once already.
You have, and there were no changes made to that.
Okay, so that's relatively easy.
At the select board level, we focused primarily on the operating budget, and I think I've prefaced to say that we started this process a lot sooner than we have in the past in an effort for us not to be scrambling come January when we're supposed to be having our public hearing, trying to figure out what we have left and available for warrant articles. So we took a different approach this year. I will admit, I let it, but I feel much better about it. Going through this process. Obviously, we took in our department request. I started conversations with the department heads back in September on realistically, what do you need to operate your department? The end result of that came in at a 8.36% operating budget increase. We knew that that wasn't going to be realistic with a 4% tax cap in place. But we also knew that it didn't really make sense to start trimming away at the operating budget without knowing what the bigger picture was. So there are recurring warrant articles year after year. We know we have road reconstruction. We know we have capital reserve and expendable trust funds that we have to fund to make some of these long-term projects come to fruition as they're needed, replacing equipment, maintaining buildings, whatever it may be. So we started looking at the big picture and said, let's focus on the operating budget, but let's also focus on those known options too. So what we did was we took the 2025 amount to be raised by taxation and calculated out what our absolute tax cap would be, figured out what we had for funds to work with, and then we just kind of went backwards. Monday night was a huge success for us because we had made some trimming and then we put some money back into operating budget line items that had been previously reduced. And we said, oh, great, we still have some money to work with. But the one factor that I discovered yesterday when I was assembling the packets for you was we left out the minor detail that we funded a portion of the new grader with unreserved fund balance, and we hadn't put that in our calculation. So
And just so everybody understands, unreserved fund balance is one of the few things that specifically gets called out in the RSA as cannot be counted towards the total taxation number.
correct.
It's about the only thing, I think.
That is the only thing. So I ended up putting that figure back in there and it adjusted our tax cap limit. So I was coming in here nice and bubbly saying, geez, we're not even gonna propose a 4% increase. This is wonderful. We're gonna be lower than that. But then when I recalculated it, we came in at 3.98%. For first initial full draft, I don't think
Still
we
under
did-
4.
I don't think we did
Pretty
bad,
exciting.
but we were striving for better. So my disappointment
This is
this
the
evening
tax
was
cap.
squashed.
So-
So what I'm presenting to you is the whole picture. Our operating budget that we're proposing is at an increase of 7.29%. But offsetting that is a reduction in warrant articles, just because either the need isn't there or they've been adjusted accordingly based on what we have earmarked for projects in '26. So that's what I would like you to look at as a whole. I mean, we would all like to be able to reduce something, but we are getting to that point where we are starting to limit some of the services, the ability to provide services. So there has to be a happy medium somewhere while still looking at the bigger picture that we have goals that we need to obtain in the future, so. This is still up for debate, and the board is still going to continue discussion and trimming wherever they can, fine tuning these details. We'll have more discussion Monday night, that's our last meeting for the year. Unless we choose to have some more, which is still a possibility, but the year is closing quickly, so.
Depending on how next week goes essentially, and perhaps how this meeting goes.
Exactly, so outside of the initial presentation that I gave to you 3 weeks ago now, you know, some key highlights were the fire department was proposing 2 additional full-time members, which would bring their full-time staff up to 8. The board said, you know, we really can't swallow that right now. We have to look at everything else, so that was one of the things that we backed out, but we compromised and said, well, maybe we can work towards having 7. You know, that's one extra staff member working towards 24/7 with 7 members, 7 full-time members, and not relying so much on the per diem and
So Ellen, I'm
Overtime.
just gonna ask you to pause for a half second and get everybody on the same page.
line items.
So the line items that Ellen's looking at are on page 4. We're looking at items 172. Primarily 172, yeah.
So 172, it was proposed at 445,000. This was one of the initial items that the select board reduced by 57,500, which equated to one of those full-time positions. We restored that on Monday evening. A lot of the discussion came about of, you know, the hope for being able to support the department, knowing that it's full-time status now. We still have a very limited part-time basis fire chief who's doing the best he can with the time that he has to work, but full-time employees expect full-time leadership. And we know that we need to work toward that goal. So one of the compromises was, like I said, you know, bringing on that 7th full-timer to be able to provide the 24/7 that was desired by the town when we went to that coverage. But also maybe the potential of if we bring on that 8th full-timer, maybe that person will come in with the qualifications or train toward having the qualifications to be the leadership that the department needs. Maybe having them transition to a full-time or full-time equivalent chief. Full-time equivalent, all that necessarily needs to be in the town is 35 hours.
So are we back at the four
So we
forty-five
restored it back to the 445,000 as requested by the department head.
for the 2?
Correct.
Oh, so
But-
we didn't go down to 7.
We did initially, but then we brought it back up. So I think my first draft budget that I brought to you, we had reduced, that was one of the line items that we had reduced. So that was the only thing that was restored in this last work session that was related to the operating budget.
So that wouldn't go to warrant as it currently sits and it is
As it
an
currently
operating.
sits, no. I mean, we could reduce, we could pull it out of the operating budget and hang it out there as a separate warrant article. There's still discussion there, but either way, that figure is what's being proposed by the select board. But obviously, it's your budget, so.
Well, given that we already had a warrant article that asked for 24/7 coverage, it doesn't feel right to then put in another warrant article to ask for essentially the same thing.
Mhm.
Right?
Right. But
So I
the
will-
reality of being able to provide 24/7 coverage with 6 full-time positions, it's unrealistic. You're leaving a whole 24
I
hour
agree,
shift.
I agree. I'm just saying, it
The
does
wording
make
will
sense to
have
put
to-
those two
we don't need
positions
to
as
put
a
it down to
warrant
one.
article.
Right.
So, Ellen, what I understood there is that the Board of Selectmen's kind of proposal to us, and I guess recommendation to the fire department, is that they might be able to get to their 8 full-time staff, but one of those staff members ideally would be able to pick up leadership responsibilities.
Correct.
So my question is, I think we heard a little bit about the salaries for the fire department and the kind of work requirements and certifications that there are for new staff. Does what's allotted here really reflect the salary of a person who might come in with managerial qualifications?
Probably not if we were looking at it for the full year, but this at least gets us a step transitioning somebody or for a partial year transition.
And maybe 35 hours.
And maybe 35, and that might be what we have to consider.
So right now, we'd use the stipend, which is the $40,000, and that would go toward.
No, so the $40,000 stipend is actually what was previously known as the points compensation, so that's your call and volunteer members that attend trainings. So
Okay.
You're
that was,
looking at the fire chief's salary.
Oh,
yeah, so the
which
fire
is the
chief's
low
salary,
below it.
yes.
Darn.
You're like 2 lines off, you're almost there.
But yes,
Okay.
but essentially that could, if we were able to find the right candidate that would roll into that full-time position, then whatever would be expended from that fire chief stipend could be used in that position as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Or if they get promotion up to that,
Correct,
it would kind of just move
So
in
you have-
there, so you're not actually ending with a higher
right.
total. You're just having an individual
Yeah.
getting compensated at a
How
higher
would that
rate for
work
that
with the stipend?
ability.
Would that just go away?
Yes, yeah, because, so the chief's position is an appointed position, but we could technically make it, we could just make it an employee position. It is a department head position, so where the bylaws have been changed, we have a little bit more flexibility now.
So with the group, just for process here, would we like to discuss fire department since we're on fire department right now? Would we like Ellen to complete sort of her presentation on all the items that changed and then discuss different items?
I'd rather hear the highlights, just my thought.
Okay.
I'm good
I don't
with
know
that
if
too.
anybody else.
Anybody have a different opinion? No, so let's keep
All
going
right.
on the highlights then.
So, again, going back to what I had originally presented to you, the only other thing that changed was we restored the merit compensation for all town employees, and instead of having the police department incorporate theirs into their wage line, that was the only department that was doing it, and it just didn't make sense. We took that amount of, we had originally backed out all the merit compensation pool and said, okay, maybe we'll put a figure back in there when we know where we're at on the bottom line. So we just restored it to the original proposed amounts. I think just basically everybody with the exception of the police department was calculated in there for a figure of $30,000. And then the difference between the 2025 approved and the police department's new request was $26,579. So we added that all to the merit compensation pool, which is line item number 4 on page 1. So that, of course, increased the executive office budget from the original proposed amount from 3.8% up to 14.34, but it reduces the police department. And I apologize, the percentages that you'll see in this middle column, those are based on the original department requests. When I went through and put in the updated Board of Selectmen recommendations in the blue column, I didn't carry over a percentage of increase, but I have them noted for each one if you wanna write them down. I just didn't wanna waste more paper and reprint.
thank you.
So the note does, it says does not include police, it does include police.
It does, yep, so you wanna go to the select board notes all the way to the right-hand column.
Basically,
Includes all departments.
Wait, I know you have
This
to
is
keep
now.
following.
I
it.
know.
exactly,
So
yeah.
Like
Pink
when
is
this
old.
goes to
Yeah.
a hearing, are some of the like department requests stuff gonna come out of this? So that-
No, I think when we put it to public hearing, it's going to be, it's technically the budget committee's budget that is being proposed, so that's all we're gonna focus on. We'll do the year-to-date expenditures, so they have a comparison of what was expended this year. But then it'll just be what is
We'll have
going
a
to be
full fiscal
proposed.
year at that point too, so it won't be this roll forward for 49 weeks out of 52.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's about what this equates to for the year-to-date expenditures right now. So I guess for all intents and purposes, we're focused on blue column and white note section. So the executive office, like I said, that merit compensation pool being restored and then adding in the police department increases into that line item. The executive total is now at a 14.34% increase. So if you want, I can just summarize by like the department categories, and then if there was any
Yeah, that'd
changes, we'll
great.
kind of talk on that.
Yep.
If we move down into the town clerk function, department request was 103,783, so that was unchanged, that's a 3.12% proposed increase. The elections, which includes the moderator, the supervisors of the checklist, the election workers, and all related election-related expenses. Again, that big shift was because we have 3 elections in '26 opposed to the one that we held in 2025. So that's a 74.74% increase. Finance administration, bookkeeper, town clerk, tax collector, and all of that related software, that has stayed the same. It's a 2.59% increase at 113,297. Moving down to assessing, we have a 19.33% decrease, and that was because we had to raise the balance of the revaluation contract in the operating budget this year, because if the warrant article failed to raise that final amount in 2024, so we were short for the reval that took place this year. So I reduced that operating budget by that 20,000. But on the flip side of that, we have a proposed warrant article to start rebuilding that revaluation capital reserve fund for our next revaluation in 2030. if not sooner.
Charlotte, was the board not interested in leaving 20,000 in that and not leaving it on a warrant?
No, we didn't really discuss it.
We didn't discuss it because it would have
Since the
to
warrant
be,
is dangerous, and if it
I
doesn't
know,
pass
I
and we're
know,
legally
yeah.
obligated to do it, you gotta go find 20K somewhere.
but we would have to expend it if it was in the operating budget, because we don't have a contract to encumber those funds to, where the capital reserve fund can only be added to by warrant article.
Right,
That's why we
thank you.
didn't talk about it.
There you go. See, somebody knows
I knew
better
there
than
was a
I do.
reason.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you, Ellen.
You're welcome.
You said
And Ellen,
2030
can you-
or?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You said 2030 or sooner?
2030 or sooner. So the Department of Revenue can mandate if our ratios fall below, like, when we just did this revaluation, the goal is you're supposed to be within 10% high or low of the market value. Like, you're supposed to be at like 100% of whatever the current market value is. When we just did our equalization value, I think at the end of 2024, we were at like 64%. So whenever your percentages fall that far below, or if there's a coefficient of dispersion disparity amongst, you know, certain property groups, that the Department of Revenue can actually mandate that you do it sooner than the required 5 years.
When the market crashes and all of our
Yeah.
things are overvalued, we can do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When the bubble bursts.
Line 69, Ellen, the GIS mapping.
Yes.
Remind me, that was for like a year and a half of updates, correct?
Correct,
So we
because we were
expect
so
that to
far
fall
behind.
a little next year?
So there was an increase, we were paying, I think it was $775 per quarter for the mapping updates and the hosting at GIS Online. I think we're up to like $950 per quarter now. That's just a small piece of it, so there is some increase built into that.
But that'll bring us up to speed. Great.
So assessing, so that was a good portion of a reduction. Town attorney, we left at 30,000. Again, we don't know what we're gonna have for legal cases. Sometimes we expend more, sometimes we expend less. We are a little bit over it now. I have one more invoice processing for the month of December. But $30,000 seems to be a comfortable fit for right now.
Is that still heavily influenced by the wrap up of the last major lawsuit, or is this just general
This is mainly just general.
legal fees throughout the year? Okay.
Yeah. Personnel administration. You'll see highlighted a couple of figures. Those have changed from what was originally proposed, and that was mainly just because I really started double checking the calculations from a prior worksheet. I did find that the fire department and police department in particular, where they pay into the New Hampshire retirement system, they actually don't have Social Security withholding from their wages. But they do have to pay the Medicare portion, which is 1.45%. But when we had calculated it in years past, we included the wages for those two departments in there. So I went back through and double checked everything and said, okay, that's an area where we can potentially reduce. So you'll notice that the FICA amount did reduce by about 7,500, line item 78. But I did have to go up a little bit on Medicare because something was a little bit wonky there. And we did make some adjustments to the fire department retirement based on including the 8th full-time position. And I just recalculated it based on the percentages that took effect July 1st. So that is proposed at a 14.32% increase.
Do we know just what the calculation is for those two potential firefighters?
It's going, well, it would be whatever we have their annual wage figured out at times the New Hampshire retirement percentage. I think for group 2 fire, it's around 36%.
Mhm.
So off the top of my head, I can't run those calculations, but
Well, if that's 820,000, you're looking at 15,000 apiece, maybe a year.
Yeah.
So the two might be 30 roughly. I'm doing decent math in my head.
any questions on that?
The health and dental,
Yes.
is that pretty accurate, or is that a placeholder still?
It's pretty accurate. So as I stated before, we had reduced that line item knowing we were going into the first quarter without fully staffed. We had at least 3 full-time positions that were vacant. Now I have to realistically account for everybody. And to be on the safe side, I did make sure that we kind of planned for somebody with like a family plan, just as a worst case scenario. So there might be a little bit of adjustment there, but we won't know until we staff the positions.
Yeah. But you're talking a few thousand, not tens of thousands.
Correct.
Probably. Okay.
And so, I mean, that does net out at the 10% increase that we're seeing across the board with our health insurance premiums.
So you said 3 positions that include the 2 fire?
Yep, so the 2 fire departments, and we did have a highway department position that we just filled. All right, moving on to the planning board, there was no changes to, that department budget. It was a 15.18% increase, and the bulk of that increase was in the Stratford Regional Planning dues. The Board of Selectmen was in favor of supporting the Stratford Regional Planning Commission, just with a newer board membership for the planning board as a whole, and with the land use coordinator position being vacated mid-year, and it's vacant again. So just to rely heavily on that support, we get a reduced hourly rate from our town planner, and it also opens us up to some additional training webinars at reduced costs by being a dues paying member. So we really talked out the benefit of the dues paying member.
It's just a no-brainer to me. This is absolutely necessary, and with all the changes coming through too in planning.
Yeah, there was a lot of legislative changes that are prompting zoning ordinance changes.
Foolish not to.
So that is traditionally found in a lower line item. We have a regional planning, but the planning board included it in their budget request, so that's just where we kept it within this budget. So it does show quite a bit of an increase for that department, but it is what it is. Outside of that, it's essentially unchanged. So 15.18% total budget for $54,840. Moving on to the zoning, again, the zoning board is pretty much applicant based. We have to appropriate money to be able to expend it and then receive the offsetting revenue from the applicant fees. So there's no change there. It's a $550 budget covering public noticing, advertising, postage for abutters notices, etc. And on the town hall and other buildings, which is pretty much our government buildings budget, there were some line items that were increased, others that were decreased. I'm proposing a 1.69% decrease in the overall budget. We're working on energy saving measures. We're working with Seacoast Energy Rider right now to figure out our solar program and understanding how that works, whether there's true benefit in us purchasing the solar system that we've been leasing from Revision Energy for 7 years. It does seem like we're leaning towards that way because we're actually paying more for our energy production through the solar generation program right now than we would if we were buying it direct from Eversource. It's just the way that it's worked out in year 7. So we're getting more details on that, but for the most part, like I said, I mean, like we worked on consolidating some of our little things like the phone lines and the internet and upgrading the speeds, but consolidating, and outside of that, just doing as much as we can through more upkeep and routine maintenance rather than fixing major infrastructure issues. So,
To that point, recycling building maintenance?
yes,
Looks like we about doubled it this year, but you're keeping it the same. Are you comfortable with that 10 or?
well, we doubled
That
it because
building's
we
not
painted
exactly-
the exterior of the building. It was an unplanned project. It doesn't necessarily fall under something that I could pull from the expendable trust fund.
Yeah.
So I was able to realize some of those other expenditures, building expenditures from that fund. So I just said, if this one goes over.
Yeah. Okay.
And realistically, I mean, we still have a lot of work that needs to be done to that building, but it's gonna take some time.
That's kind of why I was asking. It's not exactly.
We have walls that need to be fast. Unfortunately, we have a very effective highway department that if they have a rainy day or they're not able to accomplish road projects, they're very good at doing some handiwork. I utilized them today in the back room.
Our Department of Public Works now.
Yes, the Department of Public Works,
DPW's got a
they're working
facilities
for the
group.
public for sure.
Awesome.
So we're trying to utilize their manpower as much as possible. So overall, that budget's $169,000. That covers all of our light, electric, heat, phones, internet for the community center, general building maintenance, pest control, security system, building cleaning. That in a nutshell.
Do we have common fuel providers?
Yes. I put it out to bid every September. We just contracted with Irving Oil for propane and heating oil supply. Very competitive pricing. They've been great to us for the past couple of years.
Thank you.
And then we purchase our gas and diesel for a fuel cube that we use for the police cruisers and the highway trucks. We get that just over rack pricing. Cemeteries, we kept the same. I know that line, know that was an increase, $8,000. The budget's been $6,500 for several years. This year, we've spent $11,305. Some of that is offset by perpetual care funds, but eventually they're not gonna be able to sustain the mowing cost. And we've also had some pretty good, limbs and trees that have come down that they have to be removed by professionals, so. A little bit of lateral movement there, so that's a 23% increase. Insurance, 15.84% increase. That's based on our renewal package with Primex. We are in a large pool. We get very good coverage for what is traditionally decent rates, but insurance is increasing across the board, unfortunately. The police department, it is shown in yellow because it was reduced from the original department budget request, and that's based on the merit compensation that she had calculated in there that was moved over to line item 4. Outside of that, her budget presented was essentially level funded. So now, originally proposed, it was a 3.32% increase, but removing the merit compensation, it brings it down to a 0.34% increase. 893,599.
0.34.
0.34. Thank you.
Just wanna make sure I heard you right. Thank you.
I know I have to remember that you don't have these numbers that I'm holding sacred here. The fire department, again, we restored the full-time salary request to potentially 8 full-timers. The select board, as they were going through and making some finer tune adjustments, they did not understand the need for $6,000 in line 191, which is their gasoline and diesel. It was an increase from the prior year of $5,000, but they had only expended $3,400, so that line item was reduced to $4,500, and then the next line item down, the fire rescue vehicle maintenance 192. Department request was $15,000. Year to date, they've expended $10,295, so they reduced that to $13,000. Total department budget $687,930 for a proposed increase of 23.58. Again, mostly contained within adding those 2 positions. Building inspector was reduced slightly. I think there was just a few things that just didn't make sense to continue carrying forward into future years. They weren't being expended, so slight reduction from 61,110 down to 60,050 for a reduction of 1.73%. Yes, please pause me. I will go faster. Emergency management, that's a 50.83% increase, and that is because the emergency management department is now going to be taking over the maintenance of the AEDs. And that was previously in the fire department budget, but this year in particular, they're going to purchase one, their short one and a cruiser, so Fawn is working with Homeland Security and state bid pricing to see if we can get better pricing through a grant, but that is essentially what an
And you do need
AD
maintenance
costs.
as well, right? The new
Correct.
pads. Yeah.
So that budget only consists of the stipend for the emergency management director and the equipment, so. The next line item, next department is the highway department. This is another one that the select board had made some adjustments to just based on year-to-date expenditures. First one, line 225, their part-time salary line. We haven't been able to consistently fill this position. It is earmarked for a year-round position, but mainly used seasonally, primarily in the winter. So that was reduced slightly from the department request of 18,000 down to 12,000. Hired equipment and plowing stayed the same. I'm on the wrong line, I'm sorry. Highway mowing and vegetative control. We were able to do the whole town this year for the 23,000. Steve does want to continue that program just so things don't become overgrown. But we hadn't fully expended the 23,000, so the select board felt that we could squeak $3,000 out, reduce it down to 20,000.
So what was the position that you said it's?
It's just a part-time truck driver. It's primarily used, we always have a 1-ton or equivalent available for somebody that doesn't have a CDL license to do the plowing, and we've been subcontracting it out because we haven't been able to find somebody that's just looking for part-time work. My lines are starting to blend together, so bear with me.
Yeah.
Line 228, hired equipment parts, that was another one that was reduced by $7,500, just based on year-to-date expenditures. Highway equipment maintenance, that was reduced by $5,000. We have on staff a mechanic that is going through and checking our equipment, laying eyes on it rather than sending it out, so that's a huge cost savings to the town. And he's really good with just doing the general repairs.
So is that $8,000 for 2025 a bit of an anomaly for actuals under that line, you think?
It is, there will be more coming in before the end of the year regrettably.
Okay. But,
We have some heavy ticket items coming up in the next couple of weeks for processing, so.
oh, okay, so that might get a lot
50
closer to
is
the 50 than
Yeah.
it looks like now?
I know it does
Okay.
look, yeah.
It's, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, we
It's
have,
long,
we have
but
some
it's
significant repair bills that we've been waiting on, so. Regrettably. Next line item would be 234, the highway sand, gravel and stone line, 28,861. There will actually be some more expenses shifted into this account because the magnesium chloride, was actually deemed to be very effective. We purchased enough this year to cover treatment this year and next year, maybe potentially more. But it is something that he would like to continue to do. That actually got expensed to the salt line just below. So once that moves up, you'll see that there'll be more expenditure. I think it was $13,000. So that was a slight reduction from 45,000 down to 42. And the highway fuel, again, you know, we're utilizing the fuel cube and the rack plus pricing, so we're not going to the pump, saving in fuel consumption to get there, plus a lower price. So another area where they just thought they could squeeze $5,000. So the total department request for that, based on selectmen recommendation, is $844,010 for a reduction of 3.71%. And they did keep $30,000 in the shim and seal coat line, which is no change from last year, so that's a 0% increase.
So say again, the highway was at 0 and they're at 3 point?
Minus 3.7.
Minus
Minus,
3.71.
Their proposed budget was a 0% and the selectmen reduced,
So I didn't hear you say the minus, that's what
Ask
I
for
was.
nothing and we give you less.
Yeah, it was
probably because I'm
That's
getting
what I was-
froggy too.
wanting to hear was the
Makes
minus.
you wanna do it.
Yeah.
Onto solid waste, which is our wonderful recycling center. That was originally proposed at a 2.4% increase. Most of that is in our hauling costs to get rid of our household trash and other hauling costs to bring our retainers to their appropriate recycling areas. There were a few reductions made. Overall, to kind of offset those hauling costs, but then we had to increase them. The testing for the landfill, we don't have as many PFA testing requirements as we did, say, 3 years ago. But there was when I had originally calculated this budget in the early fall, we were missing a couple of invoices. So that was increased back up to $6,000, which is more realistic based on the $5,774 we've already expended this year.
How long does that have to be tested for? Forever?
Ever.
Forever and ever?
Ever. Until they tell us that it no
Forever
longer has to be
chemicals.
tested.
Unlined landfills are great for that.
Yes. It's been closed, but you will continue testing
In the
forever.
wetland, yeah, in the water table, yeah.
And then the other item was the collection fees. I had only increased it by $10,000. I looked back to the waste management contract and then, just checked what our average hauls were on a regular basis, and we increased that to $275,000. Obviously, we've expended $246,000. We're still missing the December bill, and we're running about $30,000 a month, so.
It doesn't look like that's gonna be going down
No, it does not.
by any means, so, yeah.
We
So-
did, just kind of like a sidebar comment, Steve is looking into potentially, we're looking into some grant funding to acquire a piece of equipment that could be used primarily as a roll-off truck, but then also as a plow truck that we could possibly add to the fleet to make it useful year-round as an option, but that of course would be contingent upon grant funding because we don't have money to acquire one otherwise. But that could save us on some hauling costs if we were able to bring our own,
Do it ourselves, yeah.
do it ourselves. And we have another area town that would be interested in coming up with some type of an intergovernmental agreement to have theirs hauled as well. So it might be a revenue stream. I don't know, we're thinking of options because recycling is tough right now. And when you have your hauling costs outweigh your recycling efforts, it makes it very difficult. Now we're in the storage business too.
Yes.
I saw that, trust me.
So the solid waste department, did I get to my bottom line yet? No, I did not. $395,470 for a 9.9% increase.
And that's really almost entirely the hauling.
Hauling
fees.
costs,
Yeah.
correct. Our animal control budget is essentially unchanged, 0% increase at $6,150. General assistance, which is our welfare director who gets paid an annual stipend for her services, and any assistance that we have to give or provide to anyone in need, we had somebody that we had to put up in temporary housing for about 6 months this year, and it ended up being hotel costs, so it can be rather expensive. Fortunately, that was one person. We could be looking at a family. We never know what the need is, but this was a level funded budget at $6,700. The select board discussed this in length. We're gonna keep the director's wages in there. But what we would like to do is establish an expendable trust fund this year with $5,000 for those miscellaneous welfare funds. That way, if we don't expend the $5,000 for whatever reason in a year, we don't have to raise and appropriate again the next year. We can have that $5,000 already reserved in an expendable trust fund for when the need presents itself. If we need more than that, then we have to find it within the operating budget. We understand that, we're doing that now. But that could essentially give us the ability to put a little bit of a nest egg in for when a need presents itself. And
This
again,
is
like
quite a bit more than it's been in years, there's been nothing, right, and then this year almost 10,000.
So Ellen, if the warrant article doesn't pass, that means there'll,
if we have somebody that needs general assistance, we'll have to find it within the operating budget with no money in there.
Is that a legal obligation we have, or is that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Some way to word that in the warrant?
In the warrant article.
Just,
Yeah.
I don't know how, but food for thought for
Yeah.
making sure people understand the money is gonna come from somewhere.
Exactly, it's
It's
not
not an
optional.
optional.
Your next, I'm sorry, so that was, that went from an original proposed budget of 6,700 down to the 1,700, again with that separate warrant article aside. So that's a 74.63% reduction. Glasses are coming out. 74.63, yes. Your next batch is your, social services, Waypoint, The Haven, CASA, Friends RSVP, Meals on Wheels program. All of these agencies have submitted a request to the town as they have done in the past. For the most part, I think there was only one agency that really increased their amount of request. It's $25,625, which is a 5.13% increase. This is something that we've talked about at the select board level about changing our application process, really getting them to provide more detail and data about the services that they're providing specifically to Nottingham residents, so we can make sure that your taxpayer money is going to a cause that's supporting residents within the town. So we're gonna be working on that, but
Assuming they haven't answered your inquiries.
correct.
Are we talking about specific lines on that, or?
You could.
Yeah, I might be missing something here. Looks somewhat flat to me.
I know
Requests?
284 went up by, it looked,
Yeah, but
no, that didn't go up. No, that's not-
285 did.
Child services, yeah, 285, double.
see services. They went from 1250 to 2500 and doubled.
There it is. I was
Found
missing
it.
it.
And that one we have heard is
Yes.
utilized quite a bit,
Yeah.
so.
Police
The
department.
police department, and that did go up dramatically this year.
Because we're-
They provide very good statistics relative to Nottingham, so they're actually one that we're not really as concerned with.
They did.
but-
And they do a good job. Oh, I think
Yeah.
it was Lamprey, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
that was
Lamprey
one,
River
yeah.
that was very general.
I won't say anything.
So we'll tighten that up for next year.
Moving on to recreation. So what did we do? Line 288, part-time salary. We had shifted this around a little bit. Originally, the request for a manned gate attendant at the town beach for the prescribed hours that's open between Memorial Day and Labor Day was factored into, I think it was like the Parkfield Beach Maintenance line 292. We backed it out and said, okay, we're just gonna pull that out into the part-time salary. We kind of split things up. And then we just decided that it was gonna go as a warrant article on its own. So we just removed that altogether, the line item 288. So that's 26,208 that's showing up on your warrant article tax cap calculation list.
Ellen, any discussion about the 4 positions versus 2 positions?
There's been some discussion, before Courtney went out on maternity leave, she had most of the budget worked out, and I think that was going to be the worst case scenario. But the select board has talked about, do we really need somebody from 9 to 7? Maybe realistically, the beach is open from 12 to 5, or reducing some of those hours. I think the largest thing that Courtney was trying to capture with the position is you've got 7 days a week and 10 hours a day to cover. So one person can't do that. Realistically, 2 people can't do that.
And there were a lot of call outs
Yeah,
too this year,
and
yeah.
covering the call outs. I mean, towards the tail end of
Well,
it,
you can hire 3 part-time people.
Right.
And still just cut the amount of money there. The Lake Coast program is done with 1 individual and they're by themselves in Fundy and they have to approach people and I mean, I'm not gonna say it's controversial, but
Yeah.
they have to inspect their boat and they're questioned and they do it with 1 person. And I think by cutting hours and cutting to 1 person, I worry that the warrant article is not gonna pass and then they're gonna have nobody there.
Right.
And we're back,
We're back to
the
square one.
whole
I know.
town complaining because they want the beach open and I'm very concerned about that.
Yeah, so that is one of the items. It's really difficult to be this far into discussion about the warrant articles. I mean, we've calculated out the monetary worst case scenario of it, I would say, but there is still some fine tuning before it actually gets to warrant article language and on the ballot.
Right,
So yes, there is more conversation to be had on that.
okay.
So the note's pretty vague, amount to be revisited. What's the, revisit, that leaves it pretty wide open.
What's the amount to?
Yeah, what's the amount
Well, the
Is
twenty,
that doubling, is that quadrupling, is it?
no, I think it's to be revisited as to like possible reduction, like I said, I think they
Cut it in
budgeted
half.
for the worst case scenario.
It's two
I
as
think they
opposed
were
to the
figuring
four.
$18 an hour for 4 people, split over a 14-week period, was how it was initially.
Right?
It's 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, 14 weeks.
I think if they could get to half of that, it'd have a better chance of passing.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Well, when you look at the whole
Yeah.
budget, yes, it is.
I'm sorry, was there any other discussion about that at all coming out of the revolving fund?
No, there has not been any discussion about that, not at the board level at least.
I wonder why. Okay.
Well, our,
I think that the stance that the rec department was taking is like they're not even utilizing the beach for their summer program because they have lack of lifeguards, so you know, that kind of goes back to the conversation of the essential purpose of the rec revolving is for the sustainability of the programs and having those. So with that being said, you know, is there funds in there that could be used? Yes, but
is it what it's meant to be used for? And I don't, you know,
I
I'm
know that-
struggling with this too, but the
Yeah.
idea is that there's money gotta come in and there's no money coming in from the beach. There's no programming
Well,
there.
that's where we talked about stickers or something.
Yeah.
And then I think we're still owed the budget of the revolving
Mhm.
fund. And one more. I think we were gonna get some statements. Yeah, the in and out of the money
Yeah.
for the last 3 years, so we're still owed both of those.
Okay, so I had given those, I could actually scan them and send them to you, because I just have one copy of it right here. Year to date, I did get that information, it's only through the month of November, and I think it was excluding the last payroll that we did. I think I have it in here somewhere.
We had that one statement where there was revenue of 315,500. There was a balance of 418,794.
9365, yep.
Yeah, so then we had the discussion about getting those statements for the last 3 years.
Yep.
And the budget. I think that would help us a lot. And, well,
Here, 'cause they took it out.
I have another question. I think I've asked this before and I've heard conflicting things from different people or watching videos or whatever. Is that coverage required for that beach to stay open?
That is the landowner that provides the access, that is their request to the town, is that we
That's their
manage
request?
access to our
Okay.
beach.
Yep.
So the easiest way to do that, rather than having somebody go all the way into the town beach and potentially be turned back, is just stop them initially before they even enter.
Yeah, makes sense.
Karen, I'm sorry, I don't have, I know I have it, but
So if
I
it,
actually do have it. So so the balance at the end of 2024 was $375,970.66, and I think you can find that in the town report, under the treasurer's report. So far, year-to-date revenues, and again, this is through the end of November, were $313,317.76. And expenditures, plus the payroll that I mentioned that is not included in here, $272,611.18. So they actually are showing right now a net profit of $40,706 from the programs this year. But again, that's gonna be offset by the final payroll expenditures.
Were they also waiting for the credit card?
Yes, the credit card fees.
Which was
So I think the credit card,
surprisingly,
15K or something?
yeah, 14 or 15,000 off of that too.
so we
were-
still
were
have.
changing something about that as.
Correct, yeah, it was putting it back to the user if they chose to use the credit card rather than having the town absorb that cost. So if we take into consideration that net profit in the programs year-to-date so far, it will be $416,677 in that fund. And I did meet with Courtney and Bridget yesterday, just talking about like the purpose of that fund and what they have earmarked for that. I know that they've talked to you. Or maybe it was the CIP committee, I'm not sure. They do have a plan to purchase a 15-passenger van. Originally, they were looking for something used around $50,000. Realistically, we're probably looking for something of higher quality that's going to be safe and be able to sustain the longevity that our current rec van has. That one is 15 years old and it has original tires on it that
Original
were
tires.
just replaced this year. If we're able to maintain that type of quality, then we're probably looking at $75,000 at a minimum for that type of, they want something that's gonna be easy and accessible for even like the legacy leaders if they wanted to attend.
How many miles that thing have on it if it has original tires?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't think it's very many.
Okay,
But we're still planning on keeping that too, so this would be a secondary.
so we're gonna get a new one for
Correct. A newer.
60
A
or
newer bus.
70,000?
Well, just for point of
Won't be
order,
a
if
lot
it's got
safer.
that few of a miles, like, can you just contract with like a bus type company when you need
It's a good
stuff?
point.
Well,
It's
they
hard,
do
though,
that now for the field trips.
So is that why it has like no miles on it then? Like,
Yeah.
'cause they're not using it, or?
It's a smaller van. I mean,
Yeah,
what
it's
is that, a
small,
10-passenger?
Does it have seatbelts?
Probably, yeah.
It's old.
I think it's 15 years old.
That's good.
So if something's procured with the.
So the rec revolving funds would be used to make that purchase happen
And
because,
do all the maintenance, buy the
Correct.
fuel, none of that will come into the
Correct.
operating budget.
But that's directly.
so I mean, that's
supporting
only one item. They've also talked about, we
Unless they
don't
choose
have a
not to.
playground fund to maintain the current playground equipment. We had to spend about $15,000 2 years ago. We had a piece of equipment that was completely defunct and had to be removed. It was a safety hazard, so there is no fund, so they do wanna be able to expand that and have the money available for that. They've talked about having to replace the wall mats on the gymnasium for the various programs that are held in there, especially even just for basketball, just for a safety standpoint. So that is something that's earmarked for those rec revolving funds. Again, these are just like things that are relative to the programs that they're running. So generally playground expenses, creating like a border or a fence to kind of keep it separate from the ball fields. That's another one. And they have the Land Water Community Fund, I think the LWCF grant fund that they're applying for expansion of Marston Recreation Complex. That's going to have matching funds that are needed. I know it's been sold to everybody prior to me getting here that there wasn't supposed to be any taxpayer money used towards that. So this is a way to use some of those user-generated revenue so that it doesn't become a taxpayer impact to potentially get grant funding that requires a match. So that's a big thing. Their application is actually due on that January 9th. So if that comes to fruition, that's probably gonna deplete a huge portion of this rec revolving fund. And that's just gonna be a matter of maintaining it for future programs. You know, they've been successful over the past couple of years of kind of like building that nest egg, but with an intended purpose for it. So I guess I do caution being able to utilize the funds to subsidize the department, because how long is it going to be sustainable? And in the end, to have it be sustainable in the future, you're talking about increasing the fees for the users of like the aftercare program, you know, the people that are using it because they need it. So you're talking about a smaller populace for a larger pool.
Just-
Is it there for something potentially like the beach monitor? I guess, yes, it could be.
Is there, with the van, if we take on driving campers or whatever, is there additional insurance requirements that?
It just falls under the blanket insurance. There is like a recreation waiver. I think there's certain requirements of like who's driving, and I mean, it's not a CDL bus or
Yeah,
anything like that. It's a passenger bus. Right.
Thing and stuff like that.
Next.
Are we set with
Um,
kind of off-bar rec
just
revolving
a
or?
quick question, because you mentioned it was a request from like the landowner on the beach.
Yes,
If the if there isn't a gate attendant, is the landowner saying, I'm removing access, or this is
We-
done, or?
We have, so we started the conversation with them at the close of the season. Our trail access agreement that we've been signing with them is only an annual agreement that expires when the town beach closes for the season. So we're still to that point. I mean, we're hoping to have it resolved a lot sooner than before the beach opening Memorial Day. So these are the provisions that we're trying to put in place to make sure that that access is left open for us.
Something else that would help us, Ellen, is the rec department did a community needs assessment in
Mhm.
2023.
Yep.
Could we have a copy of that? so
Sure,
we
I
could
believe
see?
that is on their website.
I could not find it.
You couldn't
The
find it?
results I could not find.
Okay, I'll look.
Sure.
Thank you.
And if it's not there, we can,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I just couldn't figure it out. I did try to find it.
all right, so the 3 years of accounting for expenditures and revenues for the rec revolving and the community need study. Okay,
I don't know if the beach was on there, but hopefully it was.
on the top of my list. And the only other adjustment that was made to that original department request was they were looking for another computer workstation at their counter. Currently, Bridget, the assistant director, is the only one that's able to process credit cards for the programs and fees on her computer. And if she's not there, then obviously the staff has to log in her computer. It makes it difficult. It would be nice to have a station right at the counter that they can just accept the payment there, and then also have it available for people to register online for programs if they don't have computer access at home. Sometimes mobile versions don't work that great, so. But instead of putting that in the operating budget, we just replaced most of the workstations in town. Even though they're older computers, we can probably repurpose one. If we wipe it clean, we can probably make it work for the time being without having to acquire a new computer. So that was the compromise that we made. So the original department request was 178,548, inclusive of that Town Beach gate monitor that has been moved to the separate warrant article. So now the request is 151,540, an increase of 12.29%. I'm just trying to see where that increase comes from, because that doesn't. Yes, because the,
Salary.
yep. The library's already presented on theirs. I didn't bring their separate memos to reference, so hopefully you guys are all set with them. They are proposing a 4.17% increase.
Sorry, Ellen, can we go back to the salary there, that line item?
For the library?
No,
Oh, for the
287.
rec.
beach, the
Yep.
26,208.
Okay,
I'm sorry, so does that come out now completely? That's totally going to warrant, correct?
correct.
Right.
Thanks. Sorry.
Historical Society, there was no change to that. Their annual request is $500. They haven't expended anything yet, but I do expect some straggler invoices to come in for what little they do require from the town. Conservation Commission was unchanged from their original request of $1,885 for a increase of 4.14%. So overall, what the Board of Selectmen is recommending is a 7.29% increase in the operating budget. But again, looking at the bigger picture as we go into discussion about the proposed warrant articles, the net increase proposed is actually 3.98%. So does anybody have any questions on the operating portion?
Any other questions on operating before we switch to tax cap calc?
Good job. Thank you.
I didn't get laryngitis either. I was hoping it was gonna be my turn.
So warrant articles, looking at the tax cap calculation sheet. So the warrants from last year that were approved, if I'm reading this correctly, totaled 1,042,000.
Correct.
Okay, the proposal for this year, so that's about halfway down the sheet, 2026 proposed warrant articles, we're looking at 656,000 proposed,
Correct.
so,
The major contributing factor of that is we're not purchasing a grader this year.
for $500,000.
Correct. And that was 3/4 capital reserve fund, 1/4 unreserved fund balance, so that didn't have tax impact anyways. But.
What was the part about the unreserved portion?
The
of that
unreserved
had
fund
to get
balance.
Added back in?
Okay, so when I calculated out the top half, we had our total appropriations, which was our operating budget and our warrant articles for $6,099,788,000. And then we did less the net revenues. So in the fall, we did the MS 434 and we adjusted the revenues based on year-to-date actuals. We propose what our revenues are gonna be when we do the budget in the beginning of the year, but those can be amended slightly by changes to the highway block grant, the room and meals tax allocation, or even, we might receive other revenues that we didn't anticipate. So we had adjusted the figure to what we put on the MS 434 in the fall. And what we left off, this is, when I say we, I'm talking Tim DeBrio and I, because we were the gurus on this calculation. We left out the fact that 182,000 was pulled out of unreserved fund balance to offset that greater purchase. So that needed to be added in to that revenue and offset calculation. So it gave us less to work with for the bottom line.
Essentially, the thought being that it's already a tax that's been paid.
Correct.
So you don't wanna double dip and double count it, so that's why specifically offsetting unassigned fund balance has to be taken out of the equation.
So the amount to be raised by taxation that we were originally calculating the tax cap off on was less than what we had originally proposed. So that gave us less money to kind of like work backwards from. So the amount to be raised, the tax cap, the way that it works is we cannot raise the amount to be raised by taxation by more than 4% from the prior year. So that figure for this year's intensive purposes would be $3,139,870.20. So that's to have the absolute cap of 4%. Obviously, just because we have it doesn't mean that we're trying to strive for that. We're just trying to do the best to offer the services that we can within that amount. And still plan for the future, like I said. So we focused on the essential items. We know that the police department has technology funds. That's why we established their fund. $10,000 seems to be adequate at this point in time. So we'd like to continue to replenish that fund with $10,000 annually. Ambulance operations are pretty much off the table here anyways, because they're funded by the ambulance revolving fund. So all the revenues that they receive in from their billing and collections help operate that. But we still, to expend from that fund, we have to have it as a warrant article. So $45,000 is a wash. The fire vehicle SCBA capital reserve fund, we're purchasing a compressor, I can't even talk now. We're purchasing a compressor this year for the SCBA. And it's gonna cost $40,000, so we're pulling it out of that fund, but that is also where our next fire truck is going to be coming from in 28. I think it's on the CIP for 2028, which it's either 28 or 30 for $1 million piece of equipment.
So based on what Donna put together for the fund contributions and balances, it looks like the withdrawal is in 2020. 2029 is when we hit a negative balance,
So instead of contributing to that negative balance by pulling 40,000 out for the compressor, we figure we're gonna put the $40,000 that we're taking out back into the fund. It's not gonna be far before we're, like she said, negative. But with that being said, our Seacoast Energy rider, Circuit Energy rider, also told us about a program where we can replace equipment through a grant program if we are eligible, where we could potentially get 80% of the cost covered.
Wow.
It's
So
very
something
exciting.
like $1 million piece of equipment is something that we're targeting as an area of exploration, so stay tuned on that one. That would be extremely huge, and there are other grant programs out there, so the department is actively seeking grant funding for most of their stuff. I will give them huge kudos, they were able to do the Motorola radio replacement, we received a significant grant for that, for I think it was $168,000. And they're gonna be replacing their base station, they've got some PPE equipment, I'm sidebarring, sorry, but
But it's important for people to know those things. I don't know how they can get that news out, but
Yeah.
it would be nice for the taxpayers to know.
hopefully they're listening in.
I went online and looked.
Well, the 10 people that are viewing from home, but it maybe it's
Tell their
hundreds of
friends.
people tomorrow when it gets posted to YouTube, right?
Yes.
So like, are those grant funds included as revenue
No.
in this? No.
No.
So maybe at like deliberative, having a separate list of like, here's all the grant funding we got.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually talked
be
about that
worse.
for even the newsletter.
That's
You know?
what
Yeah.
I was,
Yeah.
It's a
because
very good-
I
could
don't
be
know where
worse
else we
story.
would put it but the newsletter, or Nottingham.
The building maintenance expendable trust fund, this was kind of like one of those feel goods, like we had $100,000 and we weren't even gonna be at the tax cap, so let's add money to our building maintenance expendable trust fund. Currently, I have about $35,000 in that fund. And we have air conditioning needs in this building as well as the library, which preliminary quotes have come in around $40,000 to $45,000. So
Each or for both,
for both.
that's better than each.
It's better than each, but it's still, it's still $10,000 in the negative of the fund, and that gives us no money for any building needs that we might have that come up.
Never have that happen.
So again, working with our Seacoast Circuit Energy Riding, she works with HVAC and all kinds of other building energy savings needs, so I'm hoping that there's going to be a program out there that we're gonna qualify for that's going to reduce that, but worst case scenario, we know that there's gonna be a large expenditure coming out of there. And I guess it's been talked about for well over a decade that eventually this system's gonna fail. Guess what? It's failing. So the select board thought that it would be prudent to put $65,000 back into that fund, which would essentially bring it up to the 100,000. Which gives us a little bit of room to work with when we have a catastrophic building failure.
Sue, do you think that's something we could ask Mark about? Are you guys still talking to him with any regularity? So Mark Jobin he was the owner's rep for the school, with their recent HVAC upgrades.
Okay,
We
so-
have him in the budget, so he,
Might be another good person to bounce some things off of, or
Okay.
ask for ideas on
Yeah.
where there might be grant funding or what might be a good opportunity.
yeah, that's the biggest thing, it's
He's very
just trying to
plugged into that
understand,
HVAC,
like,
So,
I don't understand how this system operates, obviously the person that maintains it does. We've got quotes, we've had people come in and just say, hey, this is what we've got, we don't really wanna end up with a bunch of line sets and condensers here, there, and everywhere if we've already got the ductwork in place, so like, how do we get there? So I don't know that we've had apples to apples comparisons yet, we really need a traditional RFP, but we needed some preliminary figures to at least start working with, but
he's been helpful for
Yeah.
us. And
no,
Okay.
I've worked with him too in Manchester a
if you
lot,
could
so I
get me
know him well,
contact
so,
information, that would be
yeah,
wonderful.
I'll get you his contact info.
Okay. So that is kind of one of those things where, yes, it would be helpful to replenish that fund and have a healthy balance in there for a disastrous time, but I do look at this as an area that maybe we could reduce it a little bit, but that's for more conversation at the select board level. Again, these were just pretty much put in place this past Monday, so it's still very fresh and relative. The Highway Truck Capital Reserve Fund, $40,000. I think our next piece of equipment, subject for replacement, is the F-550 in 2028. We pretty much depleted that fund this year with the purchase of the new grader, which is still on a very slow boat from Taiwan to its next destination to meet emissions, and then hopefully we'll receive it by the first of the year, there's no guarantee. The invasive species, which is our milfoil fund that we work off of, $10,000. I don't know if any of you were present earlier this fall, but Neil Santos and his name is escaping me.
Tom Duffy.
Tom Duffy presented on the status of Milfoil and Pawtuckaway Lake. We are losing ground very quickly and require a lot of treatment. Now that we are in the state grant funding program, the first year we had 100% coverage. Now we're subject to however many towns in the state apply. So our funding is hopefully going to be 50% match, but we could be as low as 40, 30, 20, whatever it may be. Hopefully we're able to
Is
acquire.
that a change in the program?
Is it a change? It's annual, so
I
it
guess
really,
I just
I
thought it
think
was
it's
a
just very
guaranteed
competitive.
50%.
No,
I don't think
only for the first year.
that was 100% for the first year, and then it's 50% is the max that you can get. So it really depends on how many people are applying for it and how the funds are allocated.
And it's expensive.
It
to
is very
treat,
expensive,
you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, the diver assisted suction harvesting is the preferred method over the herbicide treatment, but it really depends, but they're losing ground in Fundy Cove. So we want to continue to maintain that fund, because if we lose the quality of our lake, we lose the bulk of our assessment in town. So that is essential. So $10,000, it's the same as been added to
For
in
somebody
years
who
past.
doesn't live on the lake, thank you for the people who do.
Yeah,
and pay
seriously.
for that.
Well, you know, the one thing, it is true, even people that don't live on the lake, their homes benefit
Oh, yeah.
because they have access to it. So when you sell a house in town, anywhere,
benefit.
Yeah,
having
it's a draw
access,
to the
having
community.
access to, because we pay for so much of the upkeep of the whole lake, and also,
Sure do.
yeah, so it's just really important, I
Yeah,
think,
it is.
that the access to the lake for everybody.
Agreed.
The revaluation capital reserve fund, we talked about that. We did just sign a new contract for the general assessing services with Avatar Associates for another 5 years. We know with that contract, they give us hey, this is what you're looking at in 5 years for your revaluation. So it was $20,000 a year. We were $105,340 to complete the revaluation this year, and that included bonding. That was a requirement that we thought was essential to make sure that our values were secured by the company that provided them. But in 2030, we're looking at $125,000 to $130,000. So starting off this year with a little bit of an increase to hopefully lessen the burden 5 years from now.
And is that increase due just to an increase in cost, or
Yeah.
more homes, or?
It's not more home, well, I mean, it will be based on the number of home, I mean, we would have to significantly increase our parcels, it'd be a lot of subdivisions and stuff like that, but I think it's just based on their
Charging more.
contracted service fee. Road reconstruction, $300,000. We were up in the air as to whether we were going to put our efforts towards replacing one of the culvert issues that we have in town, whether it was Kelsey Road or Cooper Hill Road or the twin culverts on Berry. 3 years ago, we had design engineering done on all of them, and they still haven't been fully brought forward yet, those designs yet. We're still working with CMA. It's been a very slow process. So we were actually considering, instead of doing major road reconstruction and paving projects this year, focusing on maybe Kelsey Road, but without the design specifications for the box culvert that we're putting in, we can't really get pricing. It is something that our highway department can do. So at the last minute, Steve pulled together some paving projects for consideration for the board. He earmarked, I think it was like a third of a mile of Ledge Farm Road connecting from existing paving, extending it a little bit further just because of the extensive use of that road as a cut through to Epping. Additionally, he proposed some paving on Smoke Street, which has delaminated much like Deerfield Road has, but we also do have a new subdivision on that road. So there's a little bit of reservation about there still being a lot of heavy equipment travel. So is now the time to do it? The select board said no. They said of the two roads, we'd rather focus on Ledge Farm. And Steve Rollins, our public works director, is still very adamant that it should be a priority to pave the aprons of the dirt roads coming onto the main approaches, obviously for the grader, but also for the safety of the vehicles being able to stop at the end of the intersections and pulling in the gravel into the paved roads. There's plenty of cause for it, so he revisited all of those approaches as they come out onto the paved roads and came up with a quote. I think the select board went through and reviewed it this past Monday. They pulled out a couple of the road groups, mainly on Mountain Road, because there was Beachhead Road, I think was the only one that we could really focus on.
Yeah, there were a couple that might actually be in Raymond.
In Raymond,
Right,
yep, the
that was
beginning of
Mountain.
JAMSA, Saks Road had already been done by a homeowner, so we pulled out the Mountain Road group and
Yeah.
the roads that come off of Cooper Hill Road as a lower priority for that, to save a little bit of money and bring the paving cost for Ledge Farm Road, those aprons, down to approximately 300,000.
But it was a sensible approach, and also doing Priest Road.
And Priest Road, thank you.
Where the fire station.
Yes, so extending Priest Road to the rear entrance to the fire station in case something in the future comes to fruition with bringing the police department over there.
I just look at the CIP, it looks like it was 600,000 a year.
600,000 is what it has been until the tax cap got put into place.
So when we did the CIP, we put 600.
Because that, in the end, I mean, based on what the pavement or the road management plan that was established several years ago that we're still probably 5-6 years behind on, that would be realistically what they would need. Obviously, this quote that we got from R&D just to do the what I just said plus Smoke Street, pretty much in its entirety, I think we figured.
Yeah, and we
It
just.
was $600,000+.
Yeah,
And that's
it
not
just
doing
didn't make
any
sense to do.
reconstruction or drainage or ditch work on any of the roads that.
Yeah, I think Steve gave us good advice. It was, why do all of Smoke Street now when there's still so much heavy equipment? You know, let's wait a year and revisit that.
I'm just
So that
wondering
did
like
cut it
how
back
it,
a lot.
with the tax cap, I mean, the culverts are 800,000 times 3 years.
Well,
So
that
how are
was,
you
that
gonna-
was based on the prior Public Works Director. He was taking the design and having all of that work subcontracted because number one, we didn't have a full crew and the crew that we did have wasn't, I don't think that we were equipped to be able to do it, where the crew that we have now under the Public Works Department leadership, he is confident that it's mostly stuff that they can do in-house, maybe contracting out pieces of equipment and some labor. So
But it
there
should
should be
cut
a
it way
significant
down.
cost reduction in that.
Prior DPW or highway guy was more of a administrator than a working.
Yes,
And we are fortunate to somebody will get his hands dirty and
Yes,
knows what he's doing. yeah.
absolutely.
And staff this.
And
Yeah.
yes, so our present Public Works Director is all about whatever we can do hands-on rather than having to contract it out and give the money to somebody else.
Does a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will let him know.
What's the hang up with the CMA and getting the designs?
I think it's just low on their priority list. I don't know, I reach out.
CMA a lot. I already know who I'm calling after this meeting. Get 'em.
I mean, 3 years is.
Yeah, it's
been
been a
what-
bit.
It's a bit truncated.
Yeah, it's a bit.
Yeah, I
Unfortunate
reached
for Jay,
out,
he's hearing from me.
I reached out about 6 weeks ago and then again about 4 weeks ago, and I was supposed to have something the first week of December and I still don't, so.
Yep.
So that's the road reconstruction warrant article, so we are incrementally getting up there, I mean, we were at 282 this past year, which was still low, but they were able to accomplish Ledge Farm, I'm sorry, not Ledge Farm Road, Lucas Pond Road. The remaining section of Deerfield Road, they had to patch a small section of Francesca, not go as far as they wanted to, but they had, they actually had to tear up a small section, so they had to patch that, and then and then Stevens Hill Road, which is proving to be much better paved for the winter maintenance end of it, and then hopefully moving forward with the rest of the maintenance, just that first quarter-mile section.
Yeah, I think a lot got done this year.
Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised.
The library parking lot paving and lighting, that not only includes the parking lot that's in front of the library itself, but also the lower lot that's where the former police station used to be. This is just in there for consideration purposes. Jen had pulled together, Jen Phillips, the library trustee, had received pretty firm quotes from Cobalt Construction to do this earlier in the year, but the select board said, maybe if we can reduce that slightly, worry about the parking lot that's in existence now, and then put the electrical conduits and provisions in for parking in the lower lot for future consideration. The parking lot right now needs to be addressed. I mean, it is a safety concern, but we also do have some runoff issues from the old town hall. And again, we're kind of at the liberty of the state that we can't really do anything with the existing exit egress of the parking lot without having to go through their challenges and additional designs, so. But we need to do something, so this at least gets,
It'll make that area much safer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then,
it probably won't increase their parking capacity, but.
but no one will die, so that's a good thing.
So that is on there for $50,000. It was reduced originally from what got put on the CIP request. Again, it will probably be like a phased project to be proposed. We had already talked about establishing the General Assistance Expendable Trust Fund. That's where the $5,000 got moved over to. The Facilities Assessment Committee has regrouped into version 2.0. They provided us with a needs assessment in the fall of 2023, I think it was. And I've asked the committee to reform to just kind of help. We don't have a facilities manager. Again, it kind of falls on me and anybody else who's willing to do it. But we've accomplished a lot in 2.5 years. A lot of forward progress, but there's still more. So just keeping that ball rolling and motivation and having those ideas and opinions out there is very valuable. So their main focus since reforming is on the potential relocation of the police department. Again, they've outlived their expected use of this location, whether it be at the fire station, we don't know. The building was constructed for that potential in the future. We have some conceptual, we have a conceptual, which is pretty much a map, nothing really specific, but we do know now, after speaking with the company that constructed it, that that entire right side of the building was shored up in preparation for expansion. So that's lovely to know. But the Facilities Assessment Committee is coming in to present to the select board on Monday for a really firm push towards this feasibility design study, whatever it needs to be. The police department has done some of their own research on, what it would cost to make sure they're making the right move there, or if it makes more sense to be a standalone department. So we'll be able to have more discussion on that. $40,000 has been on the CIP plan for several years. We moved it forward as a warrant article 2 years ago and we're unsuccessful. So we're hoping that it gets a little bit better support this year, hopefully with more communication at all levels, so.
And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we do the committee reports too.
This is very premature, but has anybody thought of what could be, if the police were to move out, is that space we could rent or somehow have some revenue from that area?
I almost look at that section of the building has been updated more than our section of the building. It might make more sense to put some of the municipal offices over there and maybe utilize some of this more open space for rental opportunities. But no, we haven't gotten there.
Yeah, I'm just, I figured as much, I just.
Thought as you're moving
You
forward.
never know.
It's worth a consideration.
We still
Extra
have the
revenue is always
empty
good.
spot out back
We
here.
still have the empty spot out back,
Yeah.
and it is empty.
I know it's been talked about before about potentially renting that space or people
Yeah.
proposing it or mentioning it and it
Are-
was a no-go because of the driveway with the police,
Correct.
so.
Yeah. So I mean, that
To-
might open up
To
some
me, if that
additional
did,
options.
if that did move, it wouldn't make sense to me to bring this half of the building over there.
Yeah.
When we have that
That's a good point.
or that,
Worth an investigation at the very least.
Talk about that next year.
Another
There you go.
conversation for an expensive feasibility study, it
yeah,
sounds like.
just a thought. I had
Good thought.
I had a quick question for you, Ellen.
Sure.
It's all good.
We're we're anticipating these are gonna hit in order listed here?
No.
For warrants or no?
No.
Okay,
Still very preliminary. I mean, obviously, we wanna make sure that the ones that are going to require the most,
And still, yeah.
probably the most sensitivity or require the most public feedback,
sure.
we need to prioritize those. We can't put them, it would be nice to put them at the end so everybody stays through to the end of deliberative session, but
Yep.
no, I think we have to be realists and understand that there are priorities
Yep.
over needs. So it is up to the select board to determine the order of the warrant. I'll set it up for them the best way I can and they can be the final decision makers. So yes, this is just for budgeting talks only. And then lastly, our town beach gate attendant has been proposed at the 26,208. So again, that's, you know, if they decide that maybe they're not going to fund it for all of the hours, that's subject to change. Further questions? No, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much. I could almost feel my voice dissipating.
Did I do that to you?
It's been a very chatty day. Did you all get your tax bills?
Yeah, we did.
Thanks.
You can thank Marion, she stuffed them.
That's
Sent
great.
them all out.
Did she? It's her
Yeah.
fault.
She did.
I can
She
blame
did a
my wife.
wonderful job.
No, she already gave me an advance notice that she thought there'd be public tonight. The number of people she's heard in the office over the last few days.
Monday, I think will be a different story.
Yeah.
There, I am working on a statement just to kind of bring it all into light. My last statement was as we were stuffing and mailing, but now everybody's received, so.
Just one question.
The kiosk too.
Hmm?
The kiosk, you can see it all.
One question on the beach tenant, say it goes to warrant. Excuse me, gets approved, then we would propose that to the landowner.
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee that they'd say, yeah, that's good, we'll re-sign.
I think it would be amenable because it is a step in the
I
right
think
direction.
they would, but I mean, you're right, it's not,
Yeah.
we don't know for sure.
Right.
Every year that's
Okay.
up again,
Yeah,
but I
not a
think.
guarantee,
No, it's not.
unfortunately.
And then, and the other hard part is actually like
And then
staffing
finding
it.
Sure.
people, yeah, yep, that's a whole other
And
job
it
for
would
rec.
not, so say, for example, this is quote unquote the full value of the warrant article, it doesn't require that we would
actually
spend the
spend
full
it.
amount.
Correct.
So if we were approved for this and then we decided we could do it with 3 staff or
Mhm.
something, we
Right.
could spend less.
And that might be
We
all
can't
get.
overspend the warrant article, but we can certainly spend less.
And this would be for one attendant at a time
Yeah.
Yes,
at the gate,
correct.
right? Nobody at the beach or anything walking around doing anything else?
It's one at a
No
time.
lifeguard,
I
think
thought it was
nothing.
2.
if you calculate it out, it's more
I
than.
think it's just the crossover, like somebody
you
work
just
half
do
the day
the-
and then another
You
person.
said $18 an hour times so many hours.
Yeah,
or
she
something.
had it, I think she had it.
So there's like, I think there's overlapping shifts, so.
For seasonal part-time up to
7 hours a
26
day,
hours,
70
$18 an hour for 14 weeks.
So 70 hours a week would be
14.
35.
So who's doing, you're doing it. I knew somebody had to have a calculator out fast.
Yeah.
What was the numbers?
For seasonal part-time up to 26 hours, $18 an hour, 14 weeks.
Right, so there's not that many hours. So if you calculate out how many hours it's open, they're staffing more than the hours that are, more than
So-
one person.
So there's overlap somewhere.
Okay.
Cause you said it was like 10 hours a day? Currently.
I've got
Yeah,
roughly
9 to 7.
980 hours for the summer.
That would make sense just for.
Yeah.
Just to be
Yeah,
sure
there'd be
that
some
you
crossover,
have-
yeah.
Otherwise you go periods where you missed.
But it's probably like a
Yeah, so I mean, they've got
$10,000.
it calculated for 104 hours a week and it's only open 70, so.
Oh, yeah. So she just miscalculated it.
I think that when she originally presented it, she said there was overlapping, there would be some periods of time when you'd have 2 people. So
Sorry.
that there's potential for reduction, I think.
Yeah,
You're
I
only
think
gonna
the
staff one person.
calculations need to be redone, cause
Yep.
I came out less than that.
Cut that down, yeah,
Yes.
no matter what, we can cut that down.
Right, you could also cut hours. It's
Well, we were
open till
talking about
7
that
PM.
too, yeah.
I'm not sure it would make sense to have two people at the gate, so I'm assuming they were thinking some of
person
those
does.
times there would be
Or-
somebody
yeah,
down.
I mean, that'd be wonderful, you know, that would be an ideal situation. It'd be nice if we could get a retiree and a young person too.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, who's senior, who gets to go do beach duty versus getting stuck at the gate,
You
yeah.
know, they could trade on.
I have to say, standing out the road for 8 hours a
That's
day
gonna be
doesn't
a lot.
sound very appealing to
Hopefully
me.
they got hopefully they
But
have
that's
bugs
why
for
they're
it,
getting
'cause they're gonna be in
$18
the
an
shade.
hour,
That's
which is
not-
a lot more than a lot of other positions.
That's not a lot for, you can get that much of
McDonald's,
any
right?
fast food restaurant.
And the young woman who was there this year, I mean, it was no fun sitting at the beach in the freezing cold.
And it's gonna be worse sitting at the road, I think, so.
I don't know, at least you could wave at people. I mean, it was a little, I was a little bit concerned about somebody being there with no cell phone service and a young person by themselves. In the rain, in the cold, almost every day this spring, and then it dried up and never rained again.
It's a job.
Anyway, any other questions on tax cap, default, or draft? I don't know what we're gonna call this, one from Board of Selectmen?
One.
Draft 1210.
12/8.
Yeah, the 12-10. Yeah, that's a better comment, 12-10 draft.
Is it 1210 or 12/8? I'm using the electronic one, but that was.
12:10.
Well, it was
12-10 's
it was
one
the
I got.
selectmen's recommendations as of 12/8, but I put
Right.
I put all the updates in on 12/10 and circulated them to you, so.
12-8 slash
You cleared
12-10.
that up.
Excellent, okay, so if there are no other questions on current proposal, and we understand that Board of Selectmen's meeting on Monday. So there might be a few more adjustments based on those conversations, we'll review them again next week.
Yeah, and I
Because we need
can
next meeting.
provide a summary, I know your focus is on the school next week, but I can provide you a summary of any further changes too.
That would be helpful,
So you're
just
kept apprised.
to stay
communication
up
is
to
key.
date. Yep, yes, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Wait, where am I gonna go?
No, I'm being very serious. It's great to work
You
with you
did
all.
good, actually.
Thank you, Ellen.
You're welcome.
I sent you that email, let me know if it doesn't go through.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Go to meeting minutes review, from 12/4. Anybody have any comments on meeting minutes?
I did, on page 1, line 29, trust funds, just, capital reserve fund. So we can just use
Not a
that,
trust fund, just capital reserve?
Yep.
Okay,
capital reserve fund, same thing on, line 32.
capital trust, almost.
Um,
Halfway.
on line 35, I don't know that the full amount,
No, I had that too,
yeah, I have
50%, I think.
partially,
Yeah.
you have to, good, thank you. So I think that,
Partially offset.
on line 35 will be partially
Partially
offset.
offset, okay.
Supplying the full cost and it's only
Oh,
partial. cost.
Partially, got it.
So he was gonna like step it into the budget.
That's right, thanks.
Line 51, same thing, capital reserve. Line 54, discuss the need for full-time versus part-time. I think there was just a question about full-time and part-time. And I know that the discussion was, there's a plan is to have a full-time role that includes other services. So we would be splitting the role. Just for example, it could be,
Curriculum or.
yeah,
Or
so
student
you would have
services.
those, right, so the plan right now is probably to have one of our current administrators evolve into the role, and then we would look at all of that. So I think the conversation, just to be true to the minutes, was that the plan was to have the full-time role that includes other services or is split with other services.
Okay, so discuss the need, or maybe instead of need, discuss the possibility for a full-time superintendent with the possibility of combining the role with another in the district.
Yeah, it would be full, so they would still be part-time superintendent services. That's what we want
Okay.
to stick with.
So I guess I'm just trying to decide, or I'm trying to get at exactly how to
True to
change
what
the word.
happened there, I know there
Possibility
was a
for-
question, do you need a full-time superintendent? I thought the answer was part-time works okay.
Yes.
But we're looking to have a full-time role.
With
including
other
other
duties.
services. So a full-time person.
Yeah.
That would provide more services.
For a full-time role, including part-time superintendent
Yeah,
and
and
other
other services.
administrative
Another role.
services.
Full-time role, including part-time superintendent
And other
and the
administrative.
possibility of, or we'll just say and other duties within the district.
Yeah. Something like that. Mhm.
Do, oh, sorry. Finish. Go ahead, Zach.
On line 63, improving the high school rainy day fund, I think that's probably referring to the
Tuition.
capital reserve fund.
Would that be so that's not the high school?
It is,
Yeah,
it
that would
is
be-
used for high school.
Okay, so it would be improving
It's
the high
called
school tuition.
Capital reserve
Capital
fund, that was
reserve.
set up for that, in the
Yes.
event that you have multiple move-ins.
Yep.
And then on line 66, Ms. Bilat reviewed the highlights of the proposed Co-Brown tuition contract, not the teacher's
Right.
contract. We don't have
That's not this year,
a
yeah.
proposed teacher's contract yet.
Brown
That's all I had.
contract.
I had, go ahead.
I just wanted to raise for discussion as the language in, through 40, sorry, the part with the full-time,
What line?
sorry. What's it, the full-time business administrator,
45.
yeah, I just want is that strong enough language for how, the issues that we're seeing line by line in the budget that we couldn't get there? Just-
I'm sorry.
The accounting in the actuals, not going to the correct line items. I just wanna,
I don't know, maybe since that was discussed, there could be a line in there, you know, noting that there's work being done.
Perhaps this
correct, or-
address the
I know
need for
Last year, we
full,
had a full-time superintendent and a full-time BA, so I don't know that it has much to do with that. It's just
The BA was gone for
in
6 months.
March, yeah.
so it wasn't even
But we had a-
quite full, but
We had a
I guess they talked about,
consultant in as well during that time, so.
Somebody could be in the chair for a lot of hours and not do
Yeah,
a great job.
there was a lot of turnover in that role.
But there was consistently throughout reviewing the budget expression that it wasn't correct.
Mm.
And that is
which I think is what
reflected
you're
here.
driving at, Jim, right?
Yeah.
So do you have like a proposed,
Like a bullet point to reflect that.
or do you,
Yeah.
like just language that you think might better highlight what you're trying to state?
maybe adding on 45, he stressed the need for full-time business administrator in order to correct this.
In order to correct previous issues?
Accounting. Now, as a
It's
deep.
really gonna be, I mean, I think the sense is we've always had we want a full-time BA.
Right, so it's not
I
just for
think we've hired the
correcting.
consultants in to go ahead and provide that service to straighten things out and then
I
push it
think he
over.
was, he did make a point of the fact that the consultants aren't
Review.
available full-time to make, like,
Right.
it's taking a lot of effort to make the corrections
I
and they're
think-
not.
Right, go
engaged
forward, we
for
want
full-time.
the full-time BA.
So
But
maybe
I think
it's-
to your point, you just wanna kind of surface that the conversation was about
How bad
their mistakes.
Inaccuracies.
how bad the inaccuracies were in it.
Yeah, how much work is going into trying to correct them. So maybe stress the need for a full-time business administrator in order to ensure
Continuity.
future accuracy and continuity or something to
Continuity
that
and
effect.
accuracy, yeah. Cause that going back forensically to try to put things together,
It's
cost them
hard.
more.
nobody's got that kind of time, right, or money?
Well, I can tell you, I just did it in Manchester and it took me 6 months to get a year in order, so.
You had the time, but I bet you didn't get the money.
So you
Meant a lot of
would,
other stuff didn't get done.
Yeah.
on line 45, the period would become a comma, and it would just be, in order to ensure accuracy.
And
um,
Mm.
continuity.
Up-to-date records or.
Ensure accuracy and continuity going forward.
Yeah, I like that.
Excellent. No, I think that's a good clarifier. Anything else on the notes?
I have something on second page, Charlotte, maybe you would like to clarify your comment, lines 81 through 83. Ms. Fife reported the committee is working on a warrant article to move the police department to the same location as the fire department. That's not
No.
that's not
That's
really correct.
not correct.
The intent is to present a responsible, like, I think we, what would you like to have said, Charlotte?
What should I have said?
For the warrant article for the feasibility.
study.
To
Yeah.
study the potential to,
A feasibility, a professional feasibility study.
okay, working on a
To
warrant
move the-
article to perform a feasibility study. A study to potentially
And,
move the
and
police
yeah,
department.
yeah, cause it isn't indefinite at all.
Location,
The fire-
potentially
It's going to the fire department.
Move the police station to,
a new location.
I said something.
Well,
more
That's
I
right,
think
I
the
know
than that,
feasibility
yeah.
study is for that location, I think, like you can't have a feasibility study to go
without a location.
anywhere.
What could be defined?
Well, that's
feasible
part, it's
locations.
not written in stone that it's gonna be at the fire station. That's-
No, but the
you
study is looking at that specific.
Well, it might
Not
be.
necessarily, you could write the RFP to say, look at this and 3 other town properties and tell us which one makes the most sense.
If you change feasibility to exploratory,
Right, yeah, well,
that covers pretty much anything.
I mean, it seems on the surface that it would be, make the most common sense to put it there, but if somebody comes in
But that's why
and
you pay
says,
somebody
"Oops,
for a
no,"
feasibility study,
we don't wanna put it
otherwise
in the
we just
wrong
go straight to
place.
engineering,
Again,
Right, but you don't,
Maybe
get
we
it
should
done.
just do that.
which maybe we should, actually, it's not.
yeah, we're looking for the
point.
pros to come in rather than the opinions, you know?
Form feasibility study, okay, just making sure I have this right. So the sentence would read, Ms. Fife reported the committee is working on a warrant article to perform a feasibility study to move the police department to a new location, comma, potentially at the or actually, we could just
I
drop
don't
that
think you
whole.
even need to say.
Say new
Yeah.
location.
Just leave it at new location, okay, fine. That makes even more sense, that's cleaner. Okay, perform a feasibility study to move the police department to a new location. Yeah, okay,
Yep,
that's clean,
that
got it,
sounds good.
perfect.
Yeah.
Poor woman who
Thank you,
has
Jill.
to take notes based on what she hears and then make the corrections based on what she hears.
What you wanted to say.
Okay.
I
I'm
do
so-
feel bad for this
I
note
am
taker.
so sorry, Beth, I am so
Yes.
sorry.
You do a very good job of this and still get these right even after we have these crazy conversations, so thank you.
I don't know Beth, but I admire her.
Okay, so, if there's nothing further, I will entertain a motion, and for Beth's sake, I'm gonna rerun the numbers. To approve the December 4th meeting minutes with the following adjustments to line 29, changing trust fund to capital reserve fund. 32, again, trust to capital reserve. 35, adding the word partially between B and offset. 45, adding at the end of the sentence, for a full-time business administrator in order to ensure accuracy and continuity going forward. Line 51, trust fund change to capital reserve fund. Line 54, change the sentence to read, they discussed the need for a full-time superintendent. No, excuse me, do not ignore that. 54, so I can't even read my own damn notes. 54, to change it to, they discussed the need for a full-time role, including part-time superintendent and other duties within the district. Line 63, change rainy day fund to tuition capital reserve fund. 66, change teacher's contract to Co-Brown contract. And then line 81, read, Ms. Fife reported the committee is working on a warrant article to perform a feasibility study to move the police department to a new location. The intent is to present a responsible estimate of the cost of doing so.
For 66, do we just have the word proposed program tuition contracts, just so people know?
Yes,
that,
okay. And then amendment to that, what I said before, for 66, Ms. Belot reviewed the highlights of the proposed Co-Brown contract.
Second all that.
I need a motion, I can't tell.
I thought you had motion.
No, I said I would entertain a motion and then said all of the words, so you don't have to read it.
Got it?
So I need a first and a second.
I'll second that.
Still need a motion.
Jim is first.
Jim is,
I'll make a motion to do all that.
excellent, motion by Mr. Stevens, second by
I think
Ms.
our time
Fife.
is over.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, passions unanimously. We are so sorry, Beth, I hope you got that. Next item on the agendas, CIP committee. You guys are all wrapped up, right?
We are.
All wrapped up. I don't have to
Just
keep
eat
putting that on
bonbons.
here, I'm gonna forget it. All wrapped up. Okay, school facilities committee.
We met on Tuesday. Pretty much talked about available space, use of space, potential needs for space, wants for space. Just floating ideas around. Not a whole lot of stuff set in stone. There was talk about potentially having a warrant article to investigate or explore an addition or additional space, whether attached or detached. And then there was some talk about potentially putting a survey out to the public. Both electronically or via paper. Get some feedback from the community.
That's a good idea.
Yep.
I like that.
Did you talk at all about the current situation where we have students on the stage and so forth and looking for some short-term?
Mhm.
Because I think the board is very interested in looking for some short-term solutions to that.
There was a little bit of discussion about that,
Yeah.
some cost stuff, but yeah.
Excellent, good. Town facilities?
This will be my stream of consciousness about that as usual. I'm actually not aware that we're presenting to the select board on Monday, but
Oh, you'll
maybe
be
I-
at the meeting anyway, so
maybe I
you're good to
missed the
go.
memo. We are meeting again next Thursday, the 18th at 5:30 here. We are concentrating primarily on the police station. We've really just about completed a new needs assessment. We've worked with the police department, our town administrator, and the facilities committee to come up with that, so that's really the first phase. Now we're looking to try to pass a warrant article, $35,000-$40,000. We wanna come up with a figure that people can count on, not just one that we pulled out on a cocktail napkin. But we've actually reached out to the original builders of the fire department, because our first place to look would be adding on to the fire department. But there are other places in town, and town-owned land, that we could relocate the police department as well. So once we've done that accurate amount for the warrant, we should be able to put that together for professional services. Then we wanna do some taxpayer education and, really try to push the fiscal responsibility. It isn't getting any cheaper. We need a new police department. They need to become certified, state certified and nationally certified, so that they can apply for other grants down the road. And there are barriers in their current location. They will not get the certification. Also the fact that it's right next to a childcare facility, that it's an aging infrastructure, and even things that some people may not think about, like evidence room that needs to be protected. For instance, fentanyl. If you have that as evidence, it can seep into wallboard and endanger people. So you need to have updated stuff. You don't need to have a huge Taj Mahal, but you do need updated facilities, and we need to have garaging for those very expensive, highly technological offices on wheels that we have now that are just part of the regular police force. Those things are highly technical, have their computers, all their equipment in there. You know, if you see them walking around, you can see they're loaded with equipment. They've got the whole computers in there. They are very valuable offices, and we'd be foolish not to protect them. So I think it's time to get this show on the road and try to convince the taxpayers this will be money well spent and will actually save us money in the long run.
Excellent. Any new business? Next meeting's next week, December 18th. We're gonna be going school draft and default budget updates.
So can I just clarify? I wanna make
Yes.
sure, we're gonna be meeting on the December 17th. I know that we had discussed, we need some notes to really explain that. Will we also be, what else? What else would you be looking for? Are you looking for not the written warrant articles, but a sense like we got tonight on the calendar?
Yeah. What,
That'd be helpful if you have it.
yeah, basically it's whatever you have. I mean, I know
Okay,
Andy said he was working, whatever, he's on version 9 or whatever, that he's still trying to clean up, and a lot of the discussion at the last meeting was about that, but I think it's basically, you know, what he's learned in the last 2 weeks, and then what the notions are on the warrant articles. That's really gonna be the new thing. I mean, a lot of, the number is still, I don't know, I don't wanna use the word unbelievably low, but it's
yeah, that's a
attention
concern.
grabbingly low, we'll
Yeah.
say. So it's basically, you know, kind of verification of that, and then also what might the warrants be, I would think, since that's the new information, as long as everybody else.
Don't forget that your food services dropped below the line.
Yes,
In the reports that you saw last time. So even though there will be offsetting revenues for that, there are offsetting revenues peppered throughout typically. So
Yeah.
when that goes up above the line, that's gonna make a change.
Mhm.
So there's that as well.
Yeah.
So superintendent will not be here. He's
Yeah.
leaving
it's
for
in
his,
Florida or something,
yeah,
yeah.
he's gonna go for his Christmas vacation. So I will be here obviously, so we'll present, probably Melissa and I.
Yep,
We'll
perfect.
present. We can give you a sense of the, we just definitely we want the notes so we can understand as well. You can't really ask a lot of questions if you don't know
Don't understand why or
what's there.
thoughts or,
So
yep,
we'll focus on getting notes and being able to be more, have more discussion and give you a sense of the warrant articles we're considering. We may not have firm numbers like they did tonight, but.
Yep.
How about for the teacher's contract so far?
The teacher's contract is still at a tentative agreement phase. So if we receive that at our next meeting, so right now I don't really have answers on that. but-
maybe an update then, just if you could
So
think
where
about
we
that
are
for
right
next week,
now, as
just
far
kinda
as
where it
the
is.
board at large is aware, we're probably at some tentative agreements. If they have a final one, or if they're complete, they'll bring it to us at our next meeting. We'll have a non-public because it's still in that phase. And then we'll let you know.
Great, excellent. On that note, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Karen Quinn, second by Charlotte Fife. All those in favor? Aye. Blue meeting is adjourned at 9:03.